The squeak of sneakers on polished wood echoed through the gym. Kids ran in circles, tossing basketballs, their laughter filling the air. I sat on the bleachers with my 8-year-old son, Ethan, helping him lace up his shoes. He wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, but he had heart, and he loved this little Saturday program. But my family had come too, not to cheer him on, never that. Mom stood near the entrance, arms folded, her lips curled in that familiar sneer. Dad leaned against the wall beside her, his boots muddy on the clean floor, his grin already stretched cruel. They weren't there for support. They were there to watch, to find something, anything, to cut us down. Ethan tugged at my sleeve, whispering, "Mom, maybe they'll be nice today?" My chest tightened. I forced a smile, but my eyes stayed on the pair of them. "Don't worry about them, sweetheart. Just play." But he didn't even get the chance. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The coach blew the whistle, calling the kids forward. Ethan hesitated, nervous, his hood still pulled over his head. That tiny pause was all Mom needed. She stormed across the gym, her heels clacking against the wood, her voice slicing through the chatter. "If you're too stupid to walk, then I'll walk you." Before I could move, her hand shot out. She grabbed Ethan by the hood of his sweatshirt and yanked hard. His small body jolted backward, his sneakers sliding helplessly against the floor as she dragged him across the gym. The sound of fabric pulling, the scrape of his shoes on wood, it all drilled into me like nails. "Mom!" I shouted, leaping from the bleachers. But she didn't stop. Ethan's face turned red, his arms flailing as he clawed at the hood, choking him. Mom's grip tightened as she sneered, "Dogs need leashes, isn't that right?" Dad's laugh boomed across the gym, cruel and proud. "Finally someone handling him right. That's how you keep mutts in line." The gym fell silent. Balls stopped bouncing. Parents froze. Kids stared wide-eyed. The whistle hung useless in the coach's hand. Everyone watched Ethan's humiliation. Everyone watched my humiliation. I reached them, yanking his hood free from her grip. Ethan collapsed into my arms, coughing, clutching his throat. I held him tight, rage and shame burning through me. "You don't touch him!" I screamed, my voice shaking the rafters. Mom smirked, brushing her hands as if she'd just taken out the trash. "If you can't control your brat, don't expect me to stand by. Someone has to discipline him. He's wild, just like his mother." Dad barked another laugh, slapping his knee. "Look at her, hugging him like some wounded puppy. Pathetic." Brooke. My sister had her phone out. Not to help, not to defend, to record. Her smile was wide, her voice dripping mockery. "This is gold. People need to see this. The mother who can't even keep her own kid in line." I looked around. Parents shifted uncomfortably, some muttering, some turning away. Not one of them stepped forward. Not one voice rose to stop what was happening. Ethan's small body trembled in my arms. He buried his face in my shoulder and whispered, "Why do they hate me? What did I do?" My throat closed, my heart cracked, but I forced my voice steady, whispering back, "You did nothing. Nothing." And as I stroked his hair, staring at my parents' smug faces, something inside me hardened. They thought dragging him across that floor had broken me. They thought humiliating my child in front of strangers would keep me small, ashamed. But it didn't. It lit a fuse. Because no one humiliates my son and walks away laughing. They wanted to treat him like a dog? Then I'd make sure they lived to see what it felt like when the leash wrapped around their throats, not literally, but in the only way that mattered to them. Power ripped away, pride shattered, laughter turned to silence. And for the first time, I stopped shaking. Because now, I knew exactly how this story would end. The rest of the game was ruined. Ethan sat out, his face pale, his hoodie crumpled in his lap. He wouldn't meet anyone's eyes, not even mine. The coach tried to coax him back onto the floor, but he just shook his head, his small hands gripping mine like lifelines. Mom leaned against the bleachers with a smirk, whispering loud enough for the parents around her to hear. "See? That's what happens when mutts get spoiled. They lose all discipline." Dad chuckled, his voice booming. "She's raising him soft. That's why he cries at the first tug. Pathetic, both of them. Brooke kept her phone angled just right, snapping photo after photo, her whispers dripping with cruelty. This will get so many laughs. People love when losers embarrass themselves. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the phone out of her hand and smash it against the floor, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I kept my arm around Ethan, whispering, "Ignore them. Just breathe. I'm right here." But I wasn't ignoring. I was memorizing every word, every smirk, every glance from the parents who stood frozen, pretending not to see. When the game ended, the other kids ran to their families, all smiles and laughter. Ethan kept his head down as we walked out. Dad's laugh followed us to the parking lot, echoing against the cars. "Don't forget the leash next time, Rachel. Dogs run wild without one." Mom added, "Or maybe just leave him at home. You're making fools of yourselves." Brooke snapped one last photo as we passed. "Smile for the camera, furniture family." The words hit harder than the rain outside, harder than the shove onto the porch weeks before, because now it wasn't just me. They had turned on Ethan, and if I let this stand, they'd never stop. That night, Ethan cried himself to sleep. I sat by his bed, stroking his hair, listening to his small voice crack with the question I'd been dreading. "Mom, am I really a dog to them?" My throat burned. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. "No, baby, you're mine. You're strong, and one day they'll regret every word." But when I left his room and shut the door, I leaned against the wall, shaking. My notebook sat waiting on my desk, the pages filled with scribbles of their cruelty. Tonight, I added new ones. "Dogs need leashes." "She's raising him soft." "Don't forget the leash next time." I stared at the words until my vision blurred. Then I opened my phone. The photos Brooke had posted were already up. One showed Ethan stumbling across the floor, Mom's fist gripping his hood. Caption, "Walking the mutt." The comments were worse than before. People laughing, calling him names, mocking me. Dozens of likes, laughing emojis stacked in rows. Something inside me snapped. I screenshotted everything, saved every comment, every timestamp, every share. For years, I had taken their abuse in silence, collecting scars like souvenirs. But now they had touched Ethan. They had branded him with their cruelty, fed him to their audience. And I wouldn't let that go. I started a new folder on my phone, labeling it Leash. Inside, I dumped every photo, every recording, every cruel thing they'd ever said. My storage wasn't for them anymore. It was for me. It was my weapon. Over the next few weeks, the abuse didn't stop. At family dinner, Dad would yank his belt loop and grin at Ethan. "Want me to tie you down so you don't run off, mutt?" Mom would cackle. "Maybe we should get him a kennel." Brooke kept filming, her voice dripping with glee. "This is going to blow up online." Each time, Ethan shrank smaller, quieter. But each time, I recorded. Because if they wanted to play with leashes, I'd show them what it felt like when the leash tightened, not around Ethan, but around them. My silence wasn't weakness anymore. It was rope, and I was pulling it tighter day by day. Soon, they wouldn't be laughing. They'd be choking on every word. It was the night of the district showcase, a bigger event than the Saturday program, with families, coaches, and school board members all packed into the gym. The bleachers groaned under the weight of parents clutching cameras, kids in fresh jerseys bouncing with nervous excitement. And of course, my parents were there, not to cheer Ethan on, but to perform their favorite role, hecklers in their own bloodline's play. Dad slouched in the front row, arms spread wide like a king surveying peasants. Mom sat beside him, smirking, whispering to the church ladies who had tagged along. Brooke was already holding her phone high, eager to record another round of humiliation. Ethan sat beside me, head low, hood pulled tight. His hands trembled against his knees. I leaned down and whispered, "You don't have to be afraid anymore. Tonight is different." He blinked up at me, confused. I just squeezed his hand. The whistle blew. The kids took the floor. Ethan hesitated, and right on cue, Mom shot to her feet. Her voice sliced through the chatter. "Go on, mutt. Show them how a dog runs without a leash." Laughter bubbled around her little circle. Dad barked, Don't trip over your tail. Brooke cackled, phone aimed steady. This is going viral. But then the speakers crackled. Not with the announcer's voice. With theirs. Loud, unmistakable, venom echoing through every corner of the gym. Dogs need leashes. She's raising him soft. Walking the mutt. Let the gutter sort you. The crowd froze. Parents stiffened. Coaches turned. Kids stopped mid-dribble. Basketballs rolling silently across the polished wood. Mom's smile collapsed. Dad sat up straight, his face redder than the bleachers. Brooke lowered her phone like it had burned her hand. The audio kept playing clip after clip I had saved. Their laughter, their cruelty, their mockery of an 8-year-old boy. Each sentence sharp as glass, undeniable. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A mother in the front row pulled her own son closer, glaring at my parents. A coach muttered, "That's disgusting." One of Dad's old coworkers shook his head, whispering, "They brag about being good Christians." Mom shot to her feet, shrieking, "Turn that off! That's private!" I stood, my voice steady, slicing through the chaos. "No, this is who you are. You called my son a dog. You dragged him across this floor. You laughed while he cried. And now everyone hears the truth." The speakers blasted one last line, Dad's booming laugh. "That's how you keep mutts in line." The silence that followed was worse than screams. The whole gym stared at them, no longer impressed, no longer blind, just disgusted. Mom's church friends scrambled for the exit, muttering under their breath. Dad's face twitched, fists clenching, but he didn't move. Not with the eyes of the school board locked on him. Brooke's friends whispered furiously, one of them hissing, "You filmed that? You posted that?" For once, Ethan wasn't the one shrinking. He lifted his head, his small voice carrying in the quiet. "I'm not a dog." Every eye swung back to him, and in that moment, I knew the revenge was complete. Because they had tried to brand him with humiliation, and now they wore it themselves, branded in public, their cruelty echoing through the speakers they couldn't control. I put my arm around Ethan and walked us out of the gym. Behind us, voices rose, parents confronting them, coaches demanding answers, whispers spreading like wildfire. They wanted him on a leash. But tonight, it was them who were chained by their own words, their own laughter, their own downfall. And for the first time in years, the sound of their cruelty didn't haunt me. It silenced them. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.